Hi again then guys, and welcome to another look down memory lane, if you will, to the third game, again in the Project Gotham franchise, a game which it's really cool to see still gets a lot of love. And it's also nice that there are justifiable reasons, and in particular I'm talking about the vehicles included in the game, to actually go back and play it again, because you would usually hope with each new game in a franchise that the lineup of cars would get better every time. And for the most part that is true, and yet all of the cars that I review in these Forza reviews, older Gran Turismo reviews, even some of these Project Gotham or Test Drive Unlimited reviews, we look at what I would call unicorns, cars that were featured in one or two of the older games, but then for various reasons left behind. Now some of those are very obvious. Of course we would have wanted the Volkswagen W12 Nardo, for instance, to be featured in Project Gotham 4. As far as I'm aware, it isn't. It is, however, in this game, and of course we reviewed it a few weeks back. This one, on the other hand, it's not necessarily as much of a crowd favourite, and certainly not as obvious as a Nardo or a Koenigsegg CCR or a Farbaud or a number of others that were not carried over. But for me personally, this car actually has a lot of importance because it's a vehicle that I initially did not like at all. I've always been a fan of Panoz. I was first introduced to them with the GTR1 race car in the Gran Turismo franchise, but then I didn't know that they had any other cars. Then a couple of years later I was reading some car books and I noticed the Panoz A4, which is one of their rarer models, more of an open wheel style sports car. I'm not a massive fan of that one, but I do still like it. And then I started to notice these other models in their range. The GTR1 road car, which, as I said in my top 50 countdown, is my dream supercar. Just a weekend toy, cost no option, or cost no object, I should say. That would be my ultimate supercar choice. But then this one, this was kind of the runt of the litter for me for a while, because I did not like the look of it. But just like with the Ferrari FF, which is my dream daily driver, which I also didn't like when I first saw it, it really, really grew on me, to the point where, again, as I said in my top 50 playlist, this is my favourite sports car in the world. And of course I'm not including supercars in that, just sports cars. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the Esperante in its more entry-level forms, you could say, rather than the full-on models like the Abruzzi or the GTR1, what can you actually expect from it? Well, it's a Panoz, so certain things go without saying. It's oddball, it's designed very deliberately in a way that some people will love it, some people will hate it, but at the very least you have to recognise that it definitely has its own distinctive style. And if you're honest about it, although there are similarities between this and other sports cars, the reality is it's actually not like anything else. It's a pretty unique looking car. Now, as I said, it does have cues or similarities to others, and in particular I would say that the Esperante, to me at least, looks like a cross between a TVR and a Porsche. A TVR in terms of its basic shape, that two-seater front engine rear-wheel drive convertible with a lot of emphasis on the front end and a fairly minimal back end, with Porsche detailing, I would say. That smooth flowing design, softer shapes, round lights, again kind of like a, say, 996 shape Porsche 911. So what then in terms of performance? Is this just a poser's car, or is it a genuine but undervalued rival to America's big dogs like the Corvette or the Viper? Well, yeah, I would definitely say it is a rival for those actually, especially of its time, going up against stuff like the C5 Z06 or the earlier Vipers, because of course later on they got up around 600 or more horsepower with ACRs and ZR1s, and this particular car is certainly not that level, but for its time it's certainly a very capable sports car. Now my favourite version of the Esperante is actually the entry-level version, with about 320 horsepower, even more understated looks. I actually love the look of that car. This one is the obvious choice, at the time at least, for performance, because this one has 420 horsepower and weighs a fairly modest, actually, 1,451 kilos. Which, incidentally, is very reasonable. For a sports car like this, which is not a lightweight track day special, it has a decent size engine, a well-equipped interior, that's actually not a bad weight at all. That's a good 100 to 150 kilos lighter than, say, a Lambo, for instance. That's not bad at all. Now, as far as the engine itself, it's a 4.6 litre V8 from, if I recall correctly, a Ford, I believe. I think it's an SVT Mustang spec engine, and the performance that it has is really good. Now, in the game, it doesn't necessarily feel as raw as it would in the real world. It sounds great, looks great, feels great to drive, with that kind of Maserati-esque oddball to its looks, to its feel. In the game, on the other hand, it's one of those cars which, for obvious reasons, you could kind of overlook. Because first things first, a lot of people will for sure be put off by the looks, and of course there's nothing you can do about that. You can either just never use it, I guess, or like me, come around to it and like it eventually. But in general, the looks alone will stop a lot of people from using it. If you actually do use it though, I would say it's actually a really good choice of sports car. The straight line speed is very good, the handling is very smooth, it's actually no way near as tail happy as you would probably expect it to be, and I would say that it's actually a very competitive car in its own way. It's not the kind of thing that you can take on every supercar or even every super sports car in the game with, but for a sports car, it's very good. It's certainly a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for, because it doesn't tend to be a car that's talked about all that much. Personally, I love the Esperante, and I'm glad that they included it in the game, even if, unfortunately, it wasn't included, of course, in the next one. But for 128,000 credits in the game, I would say this one is worth a look. But that's it for this pick overall. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.